All right, hello again, everybody. So today we're going to be looking at the process of sleep and dreams part B, or the process of sleep and dreams part B today. Again, this is for our unit, different states of consciousness. So process of sleep and dreams part B. Our objectives and standards: to explain the difference between various sleep disorders and to analyze the purpose of dreams and dream interpretation. Take a moment there to look over the standards, please. Excuse me. Our desired result, again, this is the question at the end of the lesson, so just keep this in mind as we go through the lesson. How do sleep disorders and dreams impact sleep? So let's talk about insomnia. Sometimes people have a restless night where they do not sleep well. I think I mentioned in the last lesson, we all occasionally have a bad night's sleep where, maybe we're stressed or something happened to us during the day where, we just don't get a good night's sleep. And that's normal. Occasionally that happens to everybody. We're not always going to sleep well every night. But there are people out there who do suffer from this on a regular basis, and this is known as insomnia. And people who suffer from insomnia typically get only 1 to 2 hours of sleep that is uninterrupted, where then, they might go to sleep from maybe midnight to 2 a.m., then they wake back up. Maybe they're awake for a half hour, or an hour or so. Maybe they're awake till 3 a.m. and then they, go back to sleep from 3 to 4, and then they, go back to sleep again for maybe another hour or so, then they wake back up again. So they don't get a good, steady, full 8 hours or whatever the case may be of sleep. Now, there can be many causes of this. It can be stress and depression. There are typically reasons for this. But even the overuse of drugs or alcohol can also cause people to suffer from insomnia as well. Sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is frequent disruptions in breathing during sleeping. A common sign of this or symptom of this is snoring that lasts 10 to 15 seconds and then it ends suddenly. And this frequently ends with a physical movement of the entire body, like maybe the person's whole body will jolt or move or something like that. And the cause of this is a blockage of breathing passages, which causes the person to choke. Now, eventually, the breathing reflexes are triggered again, so they're able to get oxygen and breathe again. But it is a very scary thing, can wake the person up. My uncle, I believe, is actually suffering from this right now as well. I believe he has, I've known a couple of people who have sleep apnea mask. You can Google that if you want to look that up later. But it's a mask that actually helps, provide them with oxygen while they sleep. That way they don't choke while they're sleeping. Either way, more than 12 million Americans suffer from sleep apnea. It typically affects older people, and it can result in feeling irritable, sleepy, or listless. And unlike insomnia, which is more mental, the cause of sleep apnea is more physical. Things that can cause this are enlarged tonsils, obesity, so maybe being overweight, or frequent infections of the throat or middle ear. Narcolepsy. The permanent and overwhelming feeling of sleepiness and fatigue can characterize narcolepsy, okay? It can include unusual sleep and dream patterns such as hallucinations or temporary paralysis. And these people typically suffer from sleep attacks during the day. And these sleep attacks are then followed by brief periods of REM sleep. So what will happen a lot of times with these people is these people may be sitting there having a conversation with you and they may suddenly seem very drowsy or sleepy, and then they will simply fall asleep sitting up in a chair, or they may fall asleep standing there while talking to you. And this is a very real condition, a very scary condition as well. People who may suffer from narcolepsy can face difficulties at work, obviously, leisure, even personal relationships with people. They're also prone to accidents due to the fact that they do fall asleep frequently. Many times, maybe if people have narcolepsy, they maybe shouldn't be driving a vehicle because there's a chance they could fall asleep behind the wheel. A lot of times you don't want people working heavy machinery. So again, they do have trouble with society because they fall asleep frequently. Nightmares and night terrors. Maybe some of you have heard of these before. But dreams that are frightening and occur during REM sleep are known as nightmares. These dreams can frequently wake a person who typically have a vivid memory of it, okay? The difference between nightmares and night terrors is that night terrors can last from 5 minutes to 20 minutes, and they typically involve sweating, confusion, screaming, a rapid heartbeat, and a person may suddenly awake from a night terror, or have a persistent fear that occurs at night that could cause this. Most people do not remember night terrors, however. So while we may remember a nightmare, we typically may not remember screaming out in the middle of the night. Typically, sometimes people will say, hey, you were screaming in the middle of the night. I know my sister, when she was younger, I can remember her having night terrors occasionally, and I would be in the bedroom next to her, and, we'd hear her screaming, no, 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 don't touch me, get off me, things like that. And I would run out of my bed, and my parents would run out of their bedroom, and, we'd run into our bedroom, and we'd peek in the bedroom, make sure she was okay, and she was fast asleep. So she was most likely suffering from a night terror. And then, the next day we would say to her, hey, do you remember screaming, or, crying out in your dream and when you were asleep last night? And she'd be like, no, I was screaming last night in my sleep. So again, just kind of a personal example of, of these things happening. Sleepwalking or talking. If a person is partially but not completely awake during the night, this is known as sleepwalking. A person may walk without remembering they did so. I believe I had a roommate in college who had this issue. He would typically walk around our dorm sometimes, and I'd be like, "What is he doing?" But I realized soon after that he was sleepwalking. It's typically associated with children, but like I said, it can affect adults as well. Causes of sleepwalking can be fatigue, such as being tired, stress, sometimes some sedative medicine. So sometimes some medicines you take that are supposed to help you sleep may cause you to actually sleepwalk, and they'll tell you that if you take a medicine like that. Or it can be inherited, such as if your mother or father or maybe a grandparent had a problem with sleepwalking. It can be passed down through your genes as well. Now, people who sleepwalk do face some dangers. Obviously, just like with narcolepsy, they could fall or injure themselves. And the other thing is sleep talking, and this is less dangerous, and it's much more common than sleepwalking. So sleep talking is definitely more common. Actually, most people do not realize that they talk in their sleep. And it can consist of short words, or you can form long sentences. So again, maybe next time, if you're with somebody or whatever the case may be, or wherever, and you can always ask and say, sometimes people will say to you, hey, you were talking last night in your sleep, and maybe that's happened to you, and you might not remember it, but people will say, hey, you were talking last night in your sleep. You were talking about apples or bears, or apples eating bears, or bears eating apples, or whatever the case may be. Sleep talking can occur to everybody pretty much. So let's talk about sleep and dreams. The process of dreaming occurs to every person, but most people do not remember them. More vivid, like detailed and lengthy dreams will occur in REM sleep. Early in the night, dreams are typically made up of things left over from the day, and sometimes researchers may wake participants who are in REM sleep to ask them to remember their dreams. Again, as the night progresses on, dreams become more vivid and more detailed. People typically remember the dreams during REM sleep, since it is the longest and the last stage of sleep. So you might dream early in the night, but you don't typically remember that because your dreams later on in the night will be longer and more detailed. People who are awakened during REM sleep, randomly asked about their dreams, typically have dull responses. So dreams that are remembered are typically more sexier, coherent, and generally more interesting, than those collected in systematic research. Some of the things that make up the content of dreams are everyday activities, such as riding a bike, or watching TV, or talking to family and friends. There are a wide range of dreams that can have unpleasant emotions, such as anger, sadness, anxiety, and so on. And nightmares can also occur, and this is typically caused by a sense of dread that may be related to intensity in brain activity and stimulation of that part of the brain. So how do we interpret dreams? Humans have tried to understand dreams dating back to about 5000 BC. Now, the famous psychologist Sigmund Freud believed that dreams contain clues to what the person is afraid to acknowledge in their waking hours. So maybe you dream you own an ice cream truck and you drive around owning an ice cream truck, and that's what your dream is about. And you might say in real life, "Oh, I don't want to own an ice cream truck." Well, if you dream about it, Freud says that that actually is something that you want to pursue, whether you acknowledge it or not. Some groups, such as the Inuit people of North America, as well as Sigmund Freud, believe that dreams have hidden messages. They also believe that when a person enters a dream, they're entering a spiritual world and that you can interact with those who have passed away. These departed souls can help the living reflect on current or future events. Now, there are some other views of dreams. Some scientists disagree with the view of dreams. One of the pioneers who discovered REM sleep, Nathaniel Flightman, had a view that dreams may not serve any purpose in 1960. Some argued that the feeling of paralysis during dreaming may just be the brain stimulating that muscle activity randomly. Also, dreams may be related to problem solving, allowing people to review and address problems they face during the day. And Francis Crick believed that dreams are a way for the brain to remove certain unneeded memories. So dreams could be a number of things, and we're not really quite sure, why or how dreams are created. Well, we know why they're created, but we're not quite sure what the real purpose of them is yet. And there's also the purpose of daydreams. Daydreams require a low level of awareness. They are fantasies while we're awake. I'm sure many of you have daydreamed. I've daydreamed as well. We've all done that in life. And they typically occur when we are bored or little attention is required. But however, even though they seem kind of pointless or may seem kind of silly, they do prepare us for the future, or they can remind us of something. They can also improve our creativity and allow us to control our emotions. So even daydreams have a purpose as well. All right, our closure here. How do sleep disorders and dreams impact sleep? Think about some of the sleep disorders we talked about in the lesson today: narcolepsy, sleep apnea, things like that. How do they impact sleep? Kind of tell me a little bit about them. And then also, how do dreams impact sleep? And even daydreaming, how does that impact our brains and bodies as well? All right, hope you have a great rest of your day or night. Please let me know of any questions or concerns, and I hope to talk to you all soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.